We have Don Cragen with us, the fabulous county treasurer.
Fabulous, thank
and
you.
We were discussing our studio over here. There is a green screen, so that like if you saw, I think earlier this week, Jimmy Critic was doing a review of Spider-Man 2, and you saw different things in the background.
Okay.
And that's what we do. So if I'm ever hosting the show again, if they ever let me host the show again, which I don't know. But if they do and I get Don on here, we're going to do the show from over there. We're going to have rhinoceroses charging and different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that'll be cool. Why didn't I think of this before?
I don't know.
Actually, what the best thing to do is to blame Andy in there. Why didn't Andy think of this before? But he didn't. All right, we have 46 degrees, mostly cloudy. It's 11 o'clock. We were talking about some clearing at 11 o'clock. The forecast now says we're going to have sun at 11 o'clock. So mark that, yes.
Absolutely.
First of all, give us a little background as to
what I do.
Yeah, not only what you do, but like your education, your social security number.
Absolutely, yeah. Mother's maiden name, certainly, absolutely.
Passwords.
We'll start with a little more basic information. I am a local girl. I went to Harbor High School. Now they no longer exists here.
Did you ever go back and stand in the lot there?
Yeah, I was just down by the beach and looked over there and remembered. I can't believe how small of a lot that was to house 4 of our years like that. But yeah.
I'll let you answer the question I asked in just a second. But you've seen Julie Schwartz's paintings. She's an artist. She used to teach at Lakeside, and she's got her displays up at the County Art Center right now. But it is a lot of Ashtabula Harbor stuff, some County Harbor stuff. And it's all kind of like cartoonish. It's like buildings that are like bent in like they're going to grab you and stuff. And it's the clouds that are like faces blowing in. And there's a really cool one of Harbor High School. So
at the Art Center?
Yeah.
Very cool. I'll check that out. Thank you.
Now I'll shut up and let you talk.
That's okay. I graduated from Kent State Ashtabula with my bachelor's degree. And then I went to Lake Erie College for my master's degree. So that's my educational history. Before I became county treasurer 5 years ago, I was a lease administrator for a property management company for 12 years. I'm a paralegal. I have a paralegal degree as well, so I did their paralegal work and collections and investments.
Okay.
And now I'm here.
And then Bob Harvey didn't run for re-election since he was the treasurer since time began.
He was,
and
almost.
So you ran.
I did.
And I've often kind of wanted to ask you about this.
Sure.
But way back when you first got into office, you're new to
everything.
To public life,
politics.
to all that politics and everything. You were not a politician. There are people that have jobs like that, or the face, but they don't do the actual work. Sometimes.
Sure.
And you get in the job, the economy goes in the bucket. You gotta like get rid of all your employees and like do everything yourself.
Here's
so what was
happened.
that like?
Yeah, I was sold out. Here's what happened. You start running a year before even the election, and at then the economy was starting to go down, but it was pretty pleasant. 2008-ish, 2007-8. Threw my hat in the ring, and you're so busy running for office and going to all these events and doing everything and raising money, and I still worked full time in Willoughby while doing all this. And I knew I had an idea of the economy, obviously, but then all of a sudden I win the election and I look back and I see the investments are down and house sales are down and house values are down and Bob Harvey's like, see ya. Had a great 32 years, gotta go.
Better you than me.
It was funny because my first interview was right after I was sworn in September of 2009, and I believe it was Carl Feather. He asked me, how do you like starting now? I said, I'm starting at rock bottom really, and all I can do is go up from here. But when I won the election, there were 6 full-time employees in the office. By the time I had been in office for 2 months, I was down to 4 full-time employees, and they were only working 4 days a week, which was rough on them and also on the office. But I worked nights and weekends, and my staff was really wonderful to help me get acclimated very quickly. And you do things. I took a week or 2 off of my job and went and Columbus and learned some things from the treasurer. You do stuff. So got used to it. We still only have 4 full-time employees. I still have the lowest number of employees for that office. We're still only open part-time during non-collection periods. It works well because we get our delinquent collections done in the afternoons and are able to make phone calls out. And still only have 4 staff members. I could hire more people and be open full-time if that's what's necessary. And when the economy returns, I'm sure it's what we'll do. But for now, I've kept my general fund budget down and my employees down.
Well, that's a double whammy too, because you were, I mean, nothing can really prepare you for the job. Anything you can have a perception what the job's going to be, but
Sure.
what it actually is. So you had to.
I
It's
don't
like jumping on a bicycle and doing your first 100-mile.
Cool. I mean, the State Treasurer Association helped me get acclimated. I also went over to Geauga County and Lake County and met with those treasurers and did, some acclimation there. But you're right. And, I don't even have a private parking space, no private, facilities. It's like you expected something more. There's no grandiose to our positions. I'm a worker. I just happen to have the managerial, abilities to make decisions. Right. But I work, I answer the phones, I open the mail, I do what my staff does. So right. You're no longer a figurehead in government anymore. You can't afford to be a figurehead. Right. You're a worker.
Yeah. I mean, and those kind of jobs, I don't know so much on a county level, but like on the state level, Josh Mandel, who I don't know that he knows too much about being treasurer. Is he treasurer?
He is state treasurer.
State treasurer,
mm-hmm.
right.
Yeah.
And he's promptly went from being state treasurer to running for the Senate.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really mean to beat up on Josh Mandel, but it's an example of he's not down there crunching numbers or going over books.
I've never been to his office to ask him. I mean, he may be a figurehead. I think state level's a little different.
Yes.
Yeah, because, I have people coming to see me at my office all the time. I don't know that he would have that. So.
Tell us what your office does. Tell us,
sure.
for the uninitiated, what your office does and like how you're different from the auditor's office.
Absolutely.
Or the sheriff's office. Well,
I'm way different than the sheriff. What we do, everyone knows we collect property taxes, and that's really why I get all the rotten fruit thrown at me. But we also we're the county banker. We manage all the funds, all the cash of the county. It comes to us, we manage it, we put it in the bank accounts and make sure it's there. And we also manage the county investments. I have millions of dollars in long and short-term investments. So we make those types of decisions as well. We also collect other minor taxes and such, but property taxes is a big thing that we're known for. So not only do we send out bills twice a year and collect, but we have to make delinquent decisions as well. Calling, payment plans, unfortunately foreclosures, taxing sales, things like that.
Now, then contrast that with what the auditor's position is?
Sure, absolutely. The auditor's office is the assessor of the county properties and also the I guess he made chief financial officer in that he manages the funds accounting of the county. I manage the cash dollars. He manages the funds and how they're allocated between the entities, and we balance to the penny every day.
How do you do the investment thing? I mean you can't be out there taking risks with the stock market or anything.
Absolutely not. The Ohio Revised Code has us very narrowly focused on what we can invest in. There's nothing too creative about investing. Right now with this market, I have mostly agency bonds, CDs, CDRs, and of course, I think I'm getting 0.02 on some cash accounts, 0.1 on some cash accounts. Yeah, 0.1.
Yeah.
10 basis points, not. But yeah, you just do the best you can. Investment income has gone down significantly. I hear it all the time. I work with the commissioners on how to manage that because I don't want them focusing on investment income because we never know when that's going to return. So now it's really. It's our rainy day fund is what majority of our investment income goes to. So they're not relying on that for general fund earnings every day. So. Do
you make phone calls to people saying, when are you going to pay?
A little more pleasant than that, but yes, I do. Yes, I also have a call list just like my employees. We divide the delinquent list up in 5, and I take 1/5.
So what's the average? Let's okay. I'm Don.
You want numbers?
I'm Fabulous Don, and you're going to be the average caller.
All right, absolutely.
Well, hi, I'm Don Cragen. How are you today?
I'm great, Don. How are you?
Well, I was just wondering, how are you doing, and when are you going to pay your taxes?
And you want me to answer? I pay my taxes. I have nothing due.
I'm talking about if you're the average person that does.
Let's reverse the roles.
Okay. All right.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right.
Good. How are your taxes coming along?
Well, things have been a little rough lately,
Sure.
and I mean, is that what you get mostly? I'll try to pay something.
Yeah, we listen. We listen to hear I listen for key things. If they tell me they're having a rough time, we see if we can put them on a payment plan. The biggest thing is if you live in that house and you own that house, let's put you on a payment plan. Let's get you to save your house. I don't want to take your house or your farmland by any means. If you say something about a disability and illness, we'll see if you qualify for a discount. There's a homestead exemption that's available for people that are of a certain age or have a disability, 65 or older or disability. The homestead has changed recently as of 1/1 of 14. There are some income qualifiers now, but majority of people that have that issue will meet those income qualifiers. We listen for other things. Maybe you have a bankruptcy pending or a foreclosure pending. Maybe you moved out when the bank said they were going to take it. So we listen to things and what we can do. Sometimes we have to put them on our list, an uncollectible list, and we have to decide what we're going to do from that point. Other times we repetitively call them and keep them up on their payment agreements.
If they file for bankruptcy, does that
Well,
exempt them from having to pay their property taxes? Like they don't have to pay?
I'll stick my disclaimer in here now. I'm not an attorney, but based on my understanding of the law, when you file a bankruptcy, from that point prior, your taxes are kind of held until that bankruptcy is adjudicated. But the taxes are still due from that point forward. So we can call on the taxes that have accumulated from the date they filed the bankruptcy forward. And the previous was had to wait for the discharge or some sort of payment arrangement through the bankruptcy attorney. So it's difficult.
I was going to say, it sounds like it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's not something I think I'd want to do.
It's I'm not going to say it's fun. And again, there's no grandioseness to having this position.
You get
but,
yelled at?
Oh, absolutely, all the time. You have to let it roll off. And it's hard for me because I'm a hyper person and I take things personally. So I get excitable and people think I'm getting mad. I'm not getting mad. I'm responding to you and I'm trying to come up with the reasoning why you're saying what you're saying. Yeah, but people want to yell at me all the time. Why are you taking my house? Why are you focusing on me? Or can't you look at this person? He's delinquent too. Or you get those things. And well, we do look at those people too. People have yelled at me about the decisions I made with collection. We sell tax liens now. People said, aren't you giving your job duties away? No, a tax lien was a wonderful thing that was enabled recently into legislation to allow me to have another tool to use to collect. We're looking at land banking in Ashtabula County. We now have a land bank form. We're not doing anything with it yet, but we do have form. I've received negative press on that. I was misquoted in the paper a couple weeks ago about saying I wanted to increase interest rates on delinquent taxes to 12%. I got responses. Why are you kicking people when they're down? Why are you doing this? I didn't say I wanted to increase that. I was just giving the other board members the options that we have available under the current law to collect the monies that will be shorted if we use certain funding mechanisms. So that was it. But you get misquoted and people want to say things to you and I'll talk to them.
Right. 12% is a lot.
Well,
we were talking about income coming in at 0.1%.
Yeah. Well, right now, if you don't pay your taxes and they're certified delinquent, then you'll pay 3% is the current state rate. It changes based upon state rate, but if you have a land bank, you can actually order that to be 12%. Now, that's not if you don't pay your tax bill the day after it's due. That's if you're over a year delinquent when interest rates kick in, and that money would go. It's kind of a long story. I don't know if you want to go into land banking right now, but that money would go to the subdivisions in distribution, just like the taxes are distributed. The schools, the cities, the townships, the fire levies.
How much money do you bring in a year?
About 80 million is the average. 50 million on first half collection, 30 million second half.
Wow.
Yeah, we're pretty good.
And like in Ashtabula, all of these taxes that were on the ballot last week, they either all passed or one tied. So when do people start paying that? When will they see that on their bill?
It depends on how the levies are worded, but typically these are going to be for 1/1 of 14 taxes, which we billed next year. Right now we're billing you for the 2013 taxes.
Okay.
In Ohio, taxes are billed 1 year in arrears.
Okay. Our phone number, if we have Don Cragen with us, the Fabulous County Treasurer, and she had her name legally changed to the Fabulous County.
And the word fabulous.
Yes, 593-7181. Oh, Andy's got the number there.
All right, excellent. Oh,
yeah,
good
Andy.
to Hi.
All those things we were saying about Andy behind his back, and there he puts that there for us. Yeah.
Well, I heard today is Fun Friday, so we're not just talking about jobs. Is that correct, or
we can talk about other things?
No fun allowed.
No fun allowed. Okay. And no politics. I don't do politics. Anything else? You mentioned animals.
Yeah, we could. I could remember doing the APL
Boo Wow
Walk,
yeah.
and like turn around and there you are behind me.
Yeah, I did that for quite a few years. Unfortunately, the last 2 years I couldn't do it because my husband owns a dynamometer shop, a speed shop, and he has his annual fundraiser on the same day.
Oh.
And he raises money for Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospitals, typically. And this year I convinced him to move it to a week later so that I can go to the luau. So I'm excited to be able to go this year.
Right.
I'll probably be working as well. Yeah, I enjoy working for the APL and the animals. I just haven't had much time in the last few years. So.
Yeah, I've had that problem lately. Is I used to get out 2 or 3 times a week to go run with the dogs.
You run with the dogs, I remember that.
Yeah, and I'm still doing it when I can. But like I'm here all weekend on Saturday, and everything and its mother is going on. So.
And you have, how many jobs do you hold right now?
Well, this is a little extra one because Pat Williams, who's usually here, is actually he is the star of the new James Bond film.
I did not know that.
Yes,
Excellent.
yes, and he'll be wrapping that up next week. So
Good to know.
Obviously, he can't be here.
Right.
And the week before that, he was going back in time to try to save the distant planet Krypton. So he's been very busy.
Very busy.
I cannot complain about my job. So you do have one dog? Or,
oh no!
No, I didn't think so.
No!
I know one dog is your picture on Facebook.
I probably alternate. Oh yes, the smiling dog. That is Holly the Hell Dog, is what I call her now.
Oh, that's right.
That's what I write about. Yes.
Tell me about.
To answer your question, I currently have 3 cats and two dogs, all of course rescues. I had my first APL dog died about 1.5 years ago. I had her for 17 years, and I do say mutts are the best. They live longer, they're healthier, they're happier.
I had an APL dog for 17 years.
Yes, I remember. Your dog passed recently, around the time mine did. So my other dog, I have a 14-year-old APL rescue. She's doing well, Missy. And then I have Holly the Hell Dog. She's 3.5. Her formal name is not Holly the Hell Dog, but she's lived up to that title lately. She will eat anything.
She's 3 years old. She should be over that 3.5.
You would think. I kept her in a kennel when I was at work for the first 2 years of her life, and I felt so horrible because I'm gone 9 hours a day, and then I have a lot of functions at night, so I worked her out of that, but she wasn't ready by any means. I've lost a couple rooms of carpet, I've lost leather furniture. I go to conference twice a year for my Treasurers Association. I just got back yesterday, matter of fact. And she has repeatedly opened my overnight bag and spread the contents around the living room. She actually brought me down 2 bottles of wine from the kitchen counter on the top floor of my house to the first floor, right by the door.
She didn't break them, though.
She didn't uncork them or break them, but she brought 2. I don't know how she carries these. I have a 9x14 Pyrex dish full of homemade dog cookies I made to give as Christmas gifts to people. They're healthy. I'm just trying this new thing out. Yeah. Put them in the Pyrex dish, put the lid on them, went to work, came home. The Pyrex dish was carried downstairs from the kitchen, downstairs to the living room. The lid was taken off, nothing was chewed up, and all cookies were gone. I had, 5 pounds of dark chocolate I purchased for various relatives for Christmas time. It was in the kitchen cabinet, which is above my shoulder level. Somehow she was able to open the cabinet, get up there, pull the chocolate out, and eat all of it. So she had a nice.
And what kind of dog is she?
Charcoal chaser. She's a Malamute mix. She looks like a Malamute, but she's definitely mixed. She came from a hoarding situation. My mother also adopted her brother, and they were outside dogs in some hoarding situations. So when we got her,
outside dogs.
I'm not a big fan either. But she did the soldier crawl for the first 2 or 3 days of her existence at my house. She was just so nervous about people. And it was really cool. I brought her to, you won't believe this, but I brought her to training to see if I can make her a little better temperament. And I remember the first day she walked on a tile floor. Her legs splayed out. She couldn't handle it because she'd never been on anything but dirt and grass. So, but yeah, she's definitely, she has my heart now, but she's a bad, bad girl. And I tolerate her.
Yeah, I would like to get another dog, but others in the family. But right now we're seeking consolation we're transferring old family videos from high 8 to DVD. And the last day we've been watching pictures of Casey as a puppy in 1994, 1995. And she would walk 3 steps and chew on the carpet. And then she'd walk, and there'd be a throwaway. She'd walk 3 steps and grab the carpet and shake it. And so we're remembering the good old days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we get off that altogether, tell me some of the saddest stories you've heard from people.
Sure. A lot of times what happens is a husband and wife have owned this home or a farm for many, many years, and the husband takes care of the finances and probably is a primary breadwinner of that family, and the husband suddenly passes, or maybe not so suddenly, but the wife still wasn't prepared. And so you have this widower who's never really made the financial decisions, not really worked outside the home. Maybe the husband's pension or retirement fund isn't that great, and she doesn't know what to do. Those ones are really, really sad because you feel for that person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I came from a different. My mother works. I've always worked, so I do all the finances for my household. Obviously, yeah. But my husband has knowledge on what to do if I would suddenly pass, and that's put the money in the bank because everything's auto withdrawn.
Can we call him and give him a scenario and see what he would do?
We could. Sure, he's working.
Yeah,
my husband has 2 jobs. He's a very busy man.
And though we take phone calls here at 593-7181, and I will try to watch the light. I often forget. I don't have a telephone here to call anybody, so.
Okay, but that's probably the recurring sad story I do hear, and it is sad.
What about people that get assessments? Because I've heard a lot about people that they're going to get a water assessment, they're going to get a sewer assessment, and they're going to say, hey, this is more than I paid for my house back in 1965.
And I've heard that too. What happens a lot of times, usually it's when someone owns a rental, and maybe they live in one house, they're renting their house out, and the tenant didn't pay the water bill, didn't pay the sewer bill, didn't pay the trash, maybe didn't even mow the lawn, and the city, typically the city, charges those things against the taxes at some point. They're allowed to assess those. Those are called the special assessments, and those can be significant. Those can be greater than taxes. So when maybe the person moves out and they're trying to pay the tax bill the next year, they see these huge bills, and that's what that is.
Right.
You know, so I encourage landlords to check with the communities where their rentals are located to make sure bills are paid, because you don't want that surprise, 10 months later or 12 months later.
I was thinking a lot of homeowners around Austinburg, when they're putting in a sewer line or something, that a lot of people were talking about. I can't remember the exact number, but it was
significant. I think that the state and federal government helped get those numbers.
Yeah, I think that eventually happened.
But those are on the tax bills, I think, as of right now. So.
And they can have it put on their taxes and pay so much.
Right. They could have paid it beforehand, but now it's spread over taxes over so many years.
I remember years ago somebody, and I can't remember who, saying, if you can, it's better to borrow the money and pay it in full than put it on your property taxes. Is that?
Well, there's no interest rate or penalty charge if you pay your tax bill when it comes due for that portion. So it'd be interest penalty free. So, I'm not sure what the banks are charging. They're pretty, low interest rates now, but however you want to look at it, it's a lien on your property either way. So, yeah. All right.
So we have Don Cragen. If you have a phone, if you have a question, if you have a phone call, if you have a question, if you have a phone, you can call us up. We were talking about your dogs, and I know that you've been doing some plunging lately. You did. Yes. Did you do the polar bear plunge this year?
I did the polar bear plunge in 2010.
And I have. Oh, hold on. We got a phone call. I've done some swimming, but I don't know.
It's not bad.
Okay. Hello, you're on the air.
Well, good morning. I kind of tuned in a little bit late, but I'm pretty sure you're talking about taxes for.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm a property owner in Ashtabula Township, and just recently, I've had a house for like 20 years and started renting it out, and of course, the first person I rent it out to, I get my property taxes, and they left with $500 worth of sewer.
Okay.
I knew not that I would be responsible for her sewer. They sign her up. They've got her information. I don't understand what's going on. I'll just hang up and listen.
Sure. And
okay, thank you.
Well, I'm certainly not trying to pass the buck. The special assessments are accumulated by the auditor. So it's actually an auditor's duty. I just collect the funds that are put on the tax bill. But I'll explain that.
She's just a victim here.
I get that a lot, actually. But yeah, certain entities are allowed to charge certain charges to tax bills, called special assessments, as we just said. And they are the responsibility of the homeowner. So if you are a homeowner and you rent a property, you do want to check to make sure those bills are being paid. I believe the county water department does have an ability to allow landlord knowledge of when something's delinquent before they assess it to the taxes, but I don't know exactly how that works. Again, I just collect the taxes once they're put on the bill. The auditor does collect the special assessment request from the subdivisions, the cities, and townships.
Is there a way you can go online and see at any one time what your bill is?
Yes, you can check online for your current tax year bill, which is 2013, but what's coming up for your 2014 bill is not available online. I know the auditor wants to work on getting the special assessments online as they're put on, because that'd be something that
would be very...
they'd want to know, absolutely. Yeah. It's not available right now. Right now, you just can look at your current year tax bill. So
I can imagine if you're somebody, there are a lot of people out there that have a lot of rental units.
Yep, right.
And boy, that could be a real problem.
I did property management for 12 years, and
Yeah.
it's something that you have to really take into consideration when you take on that endeavor.
I bet.
Yeah.
Well, let's plunge into plunging again.
All
You
right.
said it's not, and if you want to call back, anybody wants to call about, we can switch gears easily enough and talk about treasury stuff.
Sure.
But
sure.
let's talk about plunging.
Plunging, yes.
Because I've interviewed a lot of people that done it, and nobody says it was a bad thing.
No.
I've had people say, I'm cold.
Yes, I did say those words, and that was how it was quoted in the paper. But I did the polar bear plunge in 2010. I did the roaming shores plunge this current year. I did make that comment that the polar bear plunge, or the plunge in roaming shores, was worse. Smaller body of water,
Really?
larger
Yeah.
chunks of ice, was colder.
Mm-hmm.
We went a little deeper in. And I'm older, but it wasn't bad. I mean, you're colder waiting to go in than you are when you're in the water, and it's over very quickly. And then, you go to a fireplace.
Is it like needles in you or anything? Or?
Yeah, you feel really warm, actually. You have a searing of warmth in your
Okay.
legs when you do that. Yeah, it's a little shocking. But it's not bad, and it's worth it. You raise money for
Right.
local charities. The roaming shores plunge, you raise money for local schools, and that was really important to me. You keep things
Yeah.
local, so. I don't mind volunteering and doing things for local community fundraisers. So.
Take us into the glamorous life of the public official.
Absolutely.
Because it's, like I said, you were not a public person before this.
Didn't work at the courthouse, no.
Right. And so
Right,
you're asked to speak at the, I don't know, the ladies' auxiliaries or whatever.
Everything. Well, as I said before, I mean, jokingly,
shows.
I thought I'd have a parking space. Yeah, I say that jokingly, but I don't. I park where everyone else parks. I don't have special facilities. Whatever. There's no glamour in it, but you are asked to speak at a lot of places and talk about your job and other things, sometimes even not job related. They just want you to speak because you're a public person. I was, unfortunately, this past week, and you became victim of this, I was asked for 4 public speaking engagements this week. Well, I just got back from Columbus yesterday. So all those engagements I couldn't do because I was already somewhere else. So we moved ours to today. There's a lot of things you're asked to do. Some things cost money. You're kind of expected to be at all the steak fries and the fish fries and the pancake breakfast and other fundraisers and things like that. So it costs, there's a bit of expense.
And also if you're driving here, there, and everywhere.
Your own gas money.
Your own gas money.
Yeah. There's some things you can recover from, but most of the things you pay for your own gas money. You buy your own clothes. There's no clothing allowance. There's no tax write-off for buying a suit. It's yours. Yeah, I mean, and again, I'm not complaining. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Please don't call on this point. But I mean, we don't get raises. I know many of the people in the world don't get raises, but statutorily, we won't have a raise for at least another 3 years. So there will be no raise since 2008 for public officials, most public officials. So it's us, yeah.
Right.
It's us funding these things, and I'm not complaining. It's worth it. I enjoy my job.
And I was asking that question just because I don't know that people think about what the public officials do other than 8 to 4:30.
No.
And I would imagine you have to do a certain amount of fundraising yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's not like we were talking a little bit. John Patterson's going to be on the show Monday, and if I could think about it, I'll ask him about it. But he's got to run every 2 years.
He does.
And so it's like as soon as you're done and you're in office, it's time to start thinking.
And
about
more
the
than
next.
one county for him. Yeah.
Right. So it's a little better for you because it's every 4 years.
Every
and you
4
were
years.
reelected. Was it this past November or the November before that?
2012.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm my 5th year of being treasurer. Treasurer's odd because we're elected in November, but we don't start till the following September. So we have 10 months.
September?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I didn't realize. I thought it. Oh, wow.
Yeah. No, my term started September 9th or 7th, something like that. So, yeah. No. So, and I think it has to do with how tax collections are. Again, we collect
Right.
taxes in arrears, so they want the treasurer to finish off their year of collections before they hand the reins over. But it's kind of a little bit of an antiquated thought. But to change that to a January start date, you have to get 88 people to agree to cut their term by 9 months. I'm not sure that you get that.
No.
You know, it'd be a hard pill to swallow for some people. So I'd be fine with it. But again, 88 people would have to agree. So.
That's the county treasurers in all 88 counties.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, it's taken me a while, but
Oh, I'm sorry. I just got back from conference with all 88 county treasurers, so the numbers in my head. But
so what do you talk about at a county treasurers conference?
well, county
You have
treasurers are
jokes?
required
You have
to
county
get.
treasurer jokes? Do
No,
county treasurers
lawyer
walk into a
jokes.
bar? Lawyer jokes?
We hear lawyer jokes all the time. We're required to have 24 hours of CEUs, or continuing education units, every 2 years, relating to our job, mostly the investment aspect. If I'm able to do my own investments, which I do my own investments, I have to have these CEUs. They're also in banking. We do legislative updates.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the state legislative committee, so I'm familiar with what's going on legally, and also a couple other associations. So we keep busy with things like that. It's funny because a lot of bankers, investment agents, and attorneys are presenters, and there were more attorney jokes than anything else. They don't really, I mean, we're the tax collector. What are they going to say? People feel bad for us. They don't want to make fun of us anymore than they have to.
You think of them as the person with the number crunches with a little hat and the binders and that sort of thing. And,
You think about it that way, but now, yeah, we all look the same.
and after 50 years, you just aren't there anymore or something. I don't know.
50's a long time, but yeah, remember, we're all elected, so every 4 years you get
Right, but now the first time you ran,
Mm-hmm.
you had opposition. I can't for the life of me remember who it was, but
I have had opposition both times.
both times,
Mm-hmm.
really.
Mm-hmm. The first time,
Well, obviously the first look at all the people that ran for commissioner and
Exactly.
treasurer because hey, it's an open seat.
that was exactly the reason. Yeah, there was a primary for one political party. The first year I ran, there wasn't for mine, and then this last time there was one from each of us, one from each party that ran. But right, this election is just insane because of all the open seats, which means people that are retiring or removing themselves from office, and it's still going to be insane because there's still Democrats, Independents, and Republicans all running for these positions coming up. So it'll be an interesting election.
And then after that, if Camp Police and Ashtabula and Harrison Conneaut are elected judge, then they're going to have to find some people to be
Correct.
judges in Ashtabula and Conneaut.
And then those seats be open, correct?
Yeah, you're right. You did bite the bullet. You did do the Roaming Shores plunge. You did the one in
Polar
Lake
bear
Erie, the
plunge.
polar bear plunge,
Yep.
and you dodged the bullet on another one. So tell us about that because I know on
did.
Facebook you were talking about maybe having to go into a snake-filled pond.
Right. I received the cold water challenge on Facebook.
Another reason for being a public official.
Another reason, yeah, absolutely. And you get 24 hours to either raise pay or raise $100 or jump into a pond. And this was about 3 weeks ago. It was pretty chilly out, and which obviously hasn't bothered me in the past, but I don't like snakes.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of them. And other critters, because I had a pond growing up, so I know what's in there. So I instead raised money. I belong to North Coast Junior Women's League, and we're having a spaghetti fundraiser dinner on Monday in Madison to raise money for local kids' scholarship. So I was able to raise...
Worthy goal.
Worthy goal, yes. Again, I love to keep it local. So I was able to raise over $100 for that entity. So that's what I did. So I did not have to jump into a pond.
Okay.
There's a way to get around it.
One other thing as we jump back and forth, and if you have a question for Dawn before she leaves, you can have a question for her afterwards, but it's not going to do you any good.
Well, if you have a question for me afterwards, please. I'm going to the office right after here.
Okay.
576-3727 is my number in my office. Ask for me or talk to my staff. We'll be happy to answer your questions. And if it is an auditor issue, we'll forward you to their office. But I'd love to talk to you, so go ahead and call me.
Okay. And we're here at 593-7181. Taking back to this past November, there was a group of people that decided that they wanted a charter change.
Yes.
It's too late for me to remember all of it, but you
Sure.
had like so many executives from around the county that would be elected. And,
7 districted
Right.
council persons, yeah.
Right. And they thought that this would help the county grow more, that it was stagnant, it would help with finances. And one comment was made
Yes.
that there were examples is that it would also get qualified people in,
Right.
and that the county treasurer was pointed out as a person who, TV just went out for a second. A county treasurer was somebody who was not
qualified to manage the money that comes through
that's
the office.
you. Yeah.
That's me, and I take offense to that because
I know, because I asked you
you
about
did
it.
ask me, and I think I sent you a 7-page response.
Right. Are you going to use any of it?
Yeah, using it. Yeah, I took offense to that, and actually, Doc Malinowski is the one that
Right.
made that statement to you directly, and I also read that in the Star Beacon, and I commented in print as to this, but I do take offense to that. We're the county tax collector, the county banker, and the county investor, and I have years of experience in all those avenues. I was a property management lease administrator for 12 years, and all I did was collect rent, and I did the investments for that company.
Right.
So I had the experience. I have a master's degree and a bachelor's
Right.
degree. I'm a local girl. I think I'm well qualified for the position. I'm beyond the qualifications they required in that charter that was drafted. And I think, but even more than that is the people picked me by over 63% of the vote. I think they want qualifications that they can select.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe certain things are important to them and maybe other things are important, but let the people tell you what's important to them. Not a couple of people behind a closed door writing a document to change the world. You know, let it be the populace that tells you what qualifications are important to them for each position.
They would have appointed the treasurer.
The treasurer would have been a combined position
Right.
of other things that would have been appointed, correct?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they said after the thing sort of failed, not sort of, it did fail, but it made it pretty miserably.
Right.
They said, we'll be back.
We'll be back, yes, I've heard that.
Just like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
They'll be back, yeah.
Have they been back?
I don't know. We were
I've not heard
we were never invited to their conversations before they introduced the charter, so I don't know that we'd be invited again. I did have someone email me and ask me for my opinions on how to better the charter, and I told them I was not a fan of the charter, so why would I, you know, there's nothing that I wanted to help you improve upon that. I'm not saying county government's perfect or state government's perfect. I'm just saying we leave it to the people to make these decisions, not a small group of people behind closed doors. So.
The other thing is when people talk about this, or when people run for office, and they're going to bring this back, and they're going to do that. There are only so many dollars, and you can divide them up, and you can decide who's going to get this and who's going to get that.
Right.
But in the wash, in the end, there's only so much you can do, and if you don't have a whole lot of money, you can't. You can promise all kinds of grandiose things, but
you really can. But you're absolutely right. The commissioners control the general pot of money,
right.
and they have to dole it out, and they have to consider the public safety forces and the administration of the government, obviously, and the court systems and everything. And you know, I hate to say this, it sounds political, but I think they do a pretty good job. Obviously, the sheriff has a greater need than they can provide for him. But again, investment income's cut down,
right.
Tax collections cut down, everything, local government funds are obliterated. Really, the only thing we have going for us is sales tax. So, and you know, that was another option for the county. I hate to bring up a sore subject, but back in 2010, there was a sales tax levy proposed, and it was soundly defeated by the voters, and I respect that, and it was not reintroduced, thankfully, but then the governor just increased our sales tax.
Well, I thought of that,
without
and nobody batted an eye.
And there was no vote of the people, so, you know, that does two things. Number one, it increases the sales tax for the people, but it also removes that ability for counties to raise that fund now. Local governments funds are cut significantly, and now the sales tax was increased by the state. So if the county needed more money, that was one avenue they couldn't go now because the sales tax is already higher. So.
What do you think about the local government funding being cut so much? I guess you have to get political to a point, but the governor is running for re-election. He's touting the fact that he balanced the budget, but he balanced it by taking money away from the schools. Connie at schools looking at a levy, possibly. I mean, they're hinting. I'm sure that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, right.
And we talked the last 2 days with librarians that have had to put stuff on the ballot.
Right. Yeah.
So you know, the governor can say, we didn't increase your taxes, but
well, they did increase your taxes in various ways. They took away the homestead for many people.
That's right.
They raised the sales tax. They did many things, and I do respect the fact they had a budget hole to plug. But now they're bragging about their rainy day fund being billions, I believe, now of dollars. But it's raining in other places. We have raindrops coming down. We need money to. They had to dig money up to help our public service, our police force. I mean,
Right.
they had to find money somewhere. It wasn't available to us because local government funds were cut and other things have been cut. So yeah, it is raining in some places. Restore the local government funds or find a better way for governments to operate without having to beg the state all the time for money.
Historically, and I can't remember, so maybe I should be asking, but wasn't the local government funds put in years ago and pledged this is for your local government? We passed this, we bring this, I think maybe it was something to do with the state income tax. If you guys help with this and cooperate, that you will always have money from the state.
I don't know if the word always is used, but that's my understanding. Was it 40 years ago or whatever?
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a pledge that money would be
right
there.
But obviously not a permanent pledge. I mean, it's reducing.
I guess as you have different people in office.
Right, and they see different needs. I mean, everyone does, and I get that people have holes to plug, but so do we.
Right.
And so do the schools and the libraries, like you said, and the other governmental entities. We all have a budget we have to maintain.
We had Mariana Branch, who is the head librarian at Kingsville, yeah,
Sure.
and she says that they had a third of their money cut. I mean, that's, and you know, if you think about it yourself, is if you have a certain income as a person, and all of a sudden one day a third of it's cut,
and you can
and
only
you're
raise
expected to do just as much as you did before. I mean, look at the schools. You've got
Right.
these tests you're supposed to do.
Oh yes, and you can only raise money certain ways. You can't go out and start knitting blankets and selling them to the public. That's not something you're allowed to do. You can only raise money certain ways, and some of it's going to be raising the taxes. People don't want to pay more taxes, but you know, at some point services have to be cut,
Right.
or taxes have to be balanced. I mean,
Right. And we got a phone call already today, and the guy's a little bit upset about, you know, you're going to have to pay more taxes
Yes.
for the children's services and the
Mhm.
library
Yes.
issue here. And that's all well and good, and I can certainly see his point because I pay taxes too. But what's kind of funny is, you know, you hear for a $60,000 home it's going to cost you $2 a month, and people complain about it, and that's certainly their right. But then, you know, their cell phone bill goes up by that much, or their electric bill goes up, and they don't bat an eye.
right. Now,
Or gasoline goes up 10 cents a gallon, and that's going to be more than that.
when it's directly affiliated with a government entity, people just take offense at it because it's their money that they're paying. You know, it's my salaries from your dollars you're paying, and they just take offense to that. I get it. I am
Yeah.
offended too. My
Yeah.
taxes are going up. I'm not
Right.
thrilled,
Right.
but it's
And
a
it's
part of
like
living in a civilized society.
You're right about the tax. It's like the government is the enemy, and it's like that guy that was feeding his sheep or whatever it was out west, remember? And he hadn't paid the federal government for using their lands.
Oh.
Remember that?
I don't.
Okay, and he was the darling of conservative talk shows because he didn't recognize the federal government. And then he started making racist statements and stuff. So then the conservative talk show folks kind of backpedaled. But
People will write in the back of their payment, I'm paying this under protest, or they'll send me a 5-page letter as to why they really don't want to pay this or why they're not paying it. I mean, you know, you have to take it with a grain of salt. There's some things I can do, and I can forward the letters to the commissioners or the auditor or whoever it should be directed to, or I can read it. I can respond if there's a response available, but sometimes you just have to understand, you have to appreciate what they're saying and just move on.
Well, real quick, tell us, my tax bill is, I don't know, $2,000 for the year, whatever. Where is that money going? Give me a capsule as to my money is going here. Yeah.
Typically, if you don't have any special assessments, if you don't have any delinquent water, sewer, trash, whatever,
Right.
because that sways
Right,
the proportions
right.
greatly, the majority of your money is going to go to your school district.
Okay.
And I hate
That's
to say
good.
a number, I don't know, let's just say 55 to 75%, somewhere in there. It depends on where you are and everything. But the majority goes to the school districts. The next would be the city or the township or the township that you live in. The county probably receives them least as in the county general fund, but then there's developmental disabilities, there's children's services, there's veterans, there's other subdivisions. There's a breakout on your tax bill in on the left side somewhere in the corner that shows you where your money's going. If you have a question, ever call us and we'll be happy to break that out for you because there's some abbreviations you might not understand, but we can tell you where tax dollars are going to the penny.
Right.
It's on your tax bill.
Okay, excellent. Because, I mean, all that has to be paid for somehow.
It does, yes, absolutely.
Nobody works for free and nobody gives away stuff for free,
Right.
so it's,
Let's charge them.
that's right.
I'm kidding. Just kidding.
And taxes are generally, Joe Morosky apparently said this at a commissioners meeting, taxes are generally a little lower here than many places.
I think, well, you can figure that out. You can go to any county auditor's website elsewhere in Ohio and plug in the value of your house and see what your taxes would be. They typically have a calculator on their auditor's website. So that might be something you want to do of interest.
Right.
Yeah, check out Geauga County.
Yeah, I mean, it still hurts, no doubt.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
relevant to where we live.
And I mentioned it to the guy that called, was that my son used to live in New York State, and there's a school tax and then there's a property tax. Let's see what we got here. Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, this is the lady that called, of course, about the renting my house and getting stuck with about $504 worth of sewer.
Right.
I was wondering, has it ever been different where the person that actually lived in the house and they know who she is and everything, was it ever their responsibility?
Well, I think, and again, this is an auditor function, but I'll answer from my general knowledge. I think that you, quote unquote, own your own utility account, but the state has granted these political subdivisions the ability to charge certain things back to the tax bill of the house, therefore the owner, if they go unpaid. So to answer your question, during the time that tax bill is current, they can contact the person that's on the bill, but ultimately the owner is responsible for certain types of services, including, depending on where you live, water, sewer, trash, possibly grass cutting if you fail to maintain your own yard, things like that. I would encourage you to call the auditor's office to talk about that bill, and I can give you the phone number for the auditor's office special assessments if you'd want to take this down.
Yes.
Okay, sure. It's 440-576-3445.
Okay, 3445.
Yeah, and that's the lady that handles the special assessments for the auditor's office. She could probably give you a better breakdown and a timing as to when it falls to the homeowner's responsibility.
Yeah, because it was just a big surprise for me to get my tax bill, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you become a renter, or when you rent your units, you do find quite a few surprises. I'm sure you've realized over time, including the condition of the house, but also the bills that go unpaid that can relate directly to the house.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for calling.
Good luck.
I don't miss being the landlord in that my previous job, in that when the rent went unpaid, you can't assess it to a tax bill. The rent is something that you have to suffer through.
And you can't just kick them out. You can't say, okay,
no,
tomorrow.
No, thankfully they have rights, because there's probably
Right.
sometimes there's reasons they're not paying their rent. Maybe you're not taking care of the house or whatever, but everyone has their due process rights. But it's very difficult to collect rent in this environment when people are giving their houses up to foreclosure, giving them up, or they're being taken, and they move and maybe they don't have the money to rent. But it's very hard to collect rent. So I give her kudos for trying that. I hope she can resolve those issues.
And they probably were thinking that the owner of the house is going to have more resources to pay the bill than the renter.
The law allows it to be a lien on the house. It sounds difficult, but that's what the law allows.
I get these statistics, and they're probably not right, but when they were talking about building the schools in Ashtabula,
Okay.
and they were talking about neighborhood schools versus like central schools like they actually went to, they were talking about Ashtabula schools, something like 60% of the kids moved every year, or
Oh wow, I didn't know that figure.
I mean, it was it was more than half the kids, and it was people that rented, and their bills came due and they couldn't, so they would move to another house. And the argument there was neighborhood schools. These kids would be constantly going to a new school and a new teacher where they're all together. They could still be going to the same school even if they're going home to a different house.
Right.
So I mean, that's kind of, my job, I think it was 60% in the Ashtabula School District that they would move.
A lot of these houses that are foreclosed upon, typically by the banks, do become under an ownership of somebody else, an LLC or what have you, and they rent them out. There's a lot of rentals in Ashtabula County. I would say too many, but don't hold me to that. But owner-occupied houses seem to be going down in percentage.
Well, it's getting more expensive to buy houses too.
Maybe
not in Ashtabula County. Maybe I heard something. I hear too much. That in the country as a whole, when houses reach $350,000, it's for a middle-income family. It's difficult for them to buy a house.
Well, certainly not the numbers here in Ashtabula County, but I think that I read some reports that, I don't know, one of the real estate agencies produces, and they say the arm's length sales are going up a bit in value. So that I've heard is to be true. I don't know that factually, but I've read that. But then there are also the sheriff sale and bank sale houses that go for $20,000-$30,000 a house. That you're amazed at that. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, my son, when he was working in Rochester, and they closed the GM plant he was working at. He was an engineer there, and they moved the operation to Detroit, and he could have lived there, and they had houses for $1.
We talked about the land bank briefly, and Detroit and Michigan is actually where the land banks originated, and they have tried to help help stay that balance change, that value change. So, yeah, they were selling houses for $1. That is true. And they also have a bankruptcy issue here.
Oh,
so.
Yes. And I saw something online the other day about the Silver Dome, which was been abandoned, and they had pictures. I love old places that have been abandoned and what they look like these days. And the Silver Dome was one of them. And
Wow.
the ceiling has collapsed, and they're selling the chairs and the place and everything, which has nothing to do with anything. But we appreciate you coming in today.
Well, thank you on Fun Friday.
That's all right. And we had some fun stuff to do.
Yes, sure. And some boring treasure stuff. That's what we do.
But we've got to, if you would have left and somebody would have said, Ethel, they didn't even talk about treasure stuff at all. And it would have been.
Ethel, I hope we covered your questions. If not, again, feel free to call my office 440-576-3727. We'll be happy to answer your questions.
Or if you want her to go to your meeting or whatever.
Absolutely. I'm happy to give a public service discussion.
Okay, very good.